when you take a job for local, state, and fed, right? You have to understand that there are oaths and there are rules associated with that job. I shouldn't have to tell any of you all this, right? You're going to be held to a certain standard based upon the job that you take. Obviously, if you're a forklift driver and you don't watch where you're going, you could fall off, hurt yourself, hurt someone else, correct? Obviously, if you're a surgeon and you're not careful about where tools and things go, someone can get hurt during a surgery, right? Well, judges are no exception, okay? So we're just going to roll into this story. So let's all go take a trip to Michigan, right? Where a judge for years had got with a colleague, both of the same race, okay? And she put it in her head, she's untouchable. So she'd say disparaging stuff about people of another race, particularly black people. So we'll just keep it there. I have to tell you because what she did is said she became a racist over time, and that American born blacks are basically lazy, whereas the ones born outside of the country aren't. And she had these rants for years. He was secretly recording her, of course. Okay. So when the local officers wouldn't do anything, this person took it higher up, and that's when it got visibility. And at this point, it had also come out that she had made disparaging comments just out of the blue about a gay colleague as well. So now they've put her, taken her off the bench, I think, temporarily pending investigation. Look, let's state the obvious. If she really has something against black and gay people, you have to understand that what she said on those recordings, did she say it outside of work or did she say it at work? And I know that's offensive because you'll say, well, she's a public servant. It doesn't matter. What you say in private can get you in trouble. It depends on where in private it was said. Because if they were at the physical workplace when she said these things, then it makes you wonder. All humans are filled with bias, right? I mean, it just is what it is. And far be it me to care, because if you don't like me for being black, and black American at that, well, foundational black American, that's your issue. When she was in that courtroom, were black people and people who were gay getting different type of sentences based on her personal bias? Because she went after black people more than anything, but because she made those disparaging remarks about her gay colleague, it makes you wonder. And look, regardless of your religious belief, okay, because most people by now know what I believe. When you take an oath of public office, there are certain things you cannot do. This is just like the lady whose house was going to get robbed, and she was a judge in the South, and she called the people who were going to rob it cockroaches and had to step down. Because some public jobs, your public life and your private life, are a reflection in the opinions of society of what you're going to physically do at work, whether you want to believe that or not. Again, y'all know how I am. I read things and then I'm going to take them in a direction you don't expect me to, not because I want to be offensive. I have 3 things I want to say about this story, okay? And I want to say some things, and you'll think it has nothing to do with it, but it has everything to do with it. So we'll just roll right into the 3. Number 1. Own what you say in public and private when you are a public servant. I'm not telling you to be paranoid and be worried about the fact that somebody is recording you. But the person who's sitting across from you may not be the one recording you. Someone else out in public can hear you say it, know who you are, and expose you. You should have the expectation of some privacy because we all should have that expectation. But you got to be careful as a public servant of the expectation of privacy. As stated, this dude was freaking recording her for years, and she thought because he was the same race, she could say, can't nobody touch me. You didn't know he was recording you, did you? Which we'll talk about that more in the third point, okay? When you are a public servant, what you say, depending on if it represents or goes after certain groups, can be a representation of how you handled yourself in that courtroom. Which helps me segue to number 2. Own your professional and public biases, okay? And what I mean is we are all biased in some way towards something. If this is one of those things where I'm happy I have no hate in my heart for people, though I can disagree with things. I don't hate anyone, and I'm just happy to be that way. You cannot fully eliminate bias in the human experience. Bias is always going to be there, right? The problem I have, and let's give an example. Let's say a black man walked into her courtroom. He's never had a criminal record and committed a minor offense. How far did she or could she have taken it because her bias says, yeah, I expect you to be here because you're one of those. You know how this stuff works. When you are a judge, you're in a precarious position because you have to make sure to check your bias, because somebody that you lock up can get out and sue the whole system and win because you all have done things like this in the past. Let's not pretend that bias does not exist. We all have it in our own way. We're biased of a lot of things, even things that can be trivial. I'm biased. I prefer to live in the Pacific Northwest than the South. Not because the South sucks, because the South is a beautiful place. But that 8 o'clock in the morning wall of heat, I'm just not accustomed to it anymore. Now, that's just a silly example, but I'm just telling you. Still love y'all in Alabama. Don't hate me. I'm just messing around. But on a serious note, we all have biases, but you better know when and how to check them, or it can destroy you. Last but certainly not least, this is the one that y'all gonna really think has nothing to do with this, but does. Your coworkers and your colleagues are not your friends. See, she was sitting up here blabbing her mouth. He had done gone and told on her they did nothing about it, so he just kept collecting receipts. And his response when he was interviewed was saying, you never know how she was treating those people in the courtroom based on her biases. See, you thought this guy was your same race, and therefore you could say what you wanted to say. No. He was recording you the whole time. Y'all know the same song and dance. Somebody can be your colleague, co-worker, whatever. They will, no matter what direction you're going in your career, that person can see you as a threat. They will record you. They will write down dates and times you said stuff. They'll try to gather witnesses. You never know who's gathering intel on you. I was in a situation like some years ago up to now. I'm not going to go into detail because I made it vague for a reason, where I feel like someone sneakily tried to find things out from me to calculate my next moves. These people do this. You have to be careful in private, even when you don't think you're being recorded, what you tell someone who's a co-worker. Don't get me wrong, this man that turned her in, bravo, because their local bosses would do nothing about it, so he took it above them. And now she's being investigated, and all those cases are being investigated. But where she screwed up is she probably looked at him and said, we're the same race, and so I can just say this to him because he ain't gonna say nothing. And the whole time he's sitting there recording you. When he did that, He did it out of sense of morality, and I appreciate him. But a lot of times, y'all know when people do this to you and expose you for anything, that's because they want money out of you. They need to take you down because they see you as competition for a position, or worst off, I just don't like him or her, so I want them out of the company. Your colleagues and your co-workers are not your friends, okay? You can find long-lasting friendships at work, but you need to check who you're telling stuff and when. And you need to learn when to keep your mouth shut. Because guess what? In turning in those recordings, he let you know real quick you weren't untouchable. And if you read this article, this man is indicating that he don't have the same biases that she does. But what he did was sit there and let you talk all that mess. I've heard some stories, and I won't say the celebrities' names, of celebrities who were white passing, for example, and their white friends would sit and say disparaging things about black people or make nasty and mean black jokes, only that they didn't realize the person sitting right next to them also had a black or half black parent. But because they were white passing, that's what was said to them. You better check yourself when you say certain things to certain people. Because see, when somebody's your colleague or co-worker and they don't like you, they can sometimes act like a fox, sit stealthy and wait for a while for you to mess up. That's exactly what he did. He gathered years of receipts because these people didn't believe him. Oh, my job is safe. That's what he let you know that it wasn't. Y'all were never really as cool as you thought he was. These are the worst types, not the ones who you know are stabbing you in the back and y'all all go act fake. It's the ones that will sit there, smile in your face, go to lunch with you, go to out of work activities with you, go to concerts, everything. In the past 10 years, just about every job I've seen it. One minute these people are inseparable, next minute they've had a huge falling out, and their falling out resulted in people taking sides, which I don't, because it's petty and childish. Get on with life. Because one or the other had to expose somebody or felt like they had to expose somebody, and you'll find that the underlying reason was jealousy. Well, all right, look. I don't feel no ways about this woman. I don't care what they do, what they don't do, whatever. Cameras are everywhere, y'all. Recording devices are small as your thumb now. When y'all gonna collect these dots that somebody could be recording you? Again, don't be paranoid about this. Just know that when you were getting by with something, somebody was watching you even when you didn't know it. Well, all right, we'll find out soon enough how many of her cases might get thrown out or might get revisited because of her biases. Let me know what y'all think.